Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. Today's demonstration is this sunny beach scene with a red flag as a focal point. This is an imagined scene with the sun pretty much overhead, and I want to show you how you can use a scraping technique to depict grasses and their shadows. So let's get started. I've lightly sketched a few lines as a rough guide for the positioning of the horizon, the flag and the fence posts. And this is Saunders Waterford 300-gram rough paper, roughly 11 inches by 8 inches, which is 1/8 of a full sheet. The sky is a mixture of cerulean blue and a touch of cobalt blue. And I want it to be a cloudless sky so that it doesn't really interfere with the composition. I'm working on dry paper, being careful to keep the horizon line horizontal. And then I'm just going to soften the edge of the horizon so that I don't get a hard line. Whilst the sky's drying, I'm painting the beach with a watery mix of raw sienna, carefully painting around the fence posts so that I can leave them white. I've let the sky and sand dry now, and I'm now using a dark mixture of it's jadeite green and burnt sienna to create this dark green for the shadows under the grasses. And whilst the paint's still wet, I'm using the corner of an old credit card to scrape out upwards to depict the darkest strands of the grass. The paint has to be wet to do this. You could also use a palette knife or a craft knife to do this. Now I'm just dropping in some quinacridone violet for the shadows on the sand and letting it all blend wet in wet, and then scraping out the short shadows of the grass with the card again. The sun's almost directly above in my imagination, so the shadows are going to be short to reflect that. I'm now using some Prussian blue for the sea and carefully painting around the red flag and leaving some white patches for breaking waves nearer to the shore. Now this is a stronger mix of the raw sienna for some darker patches in the sand. Sand's never all one colour, so it's always good to have some light and shade. Now that the darker grasses and shadows are just damp, I'm scraping out lighter strands of grass. This technique is all about timing. The paint has to be just damp to scrape out light lines and wet to scrape out the dark lines. I'm now using some more raw sienna and some patches of quinacridone violet for the footprints leading down to the beach. Just varying the colours and letting them blend together. So once it's dry, it'll all look fairly natural. For the fence posts, I've just mixed up a grey from ultramarine and burnt sienna. Just dropping in a little bit of ultramarine as well, just to add a bit of variety of colour and tonal values. These are weather-worn fence posts, so they always look a bit grey. I'm now using a number 1 rigger to paint the lighter grasses with raw sienna and burnt sienna. Just adding a few darker patches of the dark green for shadows. Just adding a few touches of seed pods or whatever at the top of the grass, some of the lighter grasses. Just helps to define the grasses. The trick is not to overdo it when you're doing these sand dune grasses. As with any watercolour, it's knowing when to stop fiddling. Here I'm just strengthening the shadows on the breaking waves to give them a little bit more definition. Not too much, just enough to show that they're closer to us than the rest of the sea. I've painted the flag with cadmium red. And the flagpole is going to be just a neat mix of neutral tint. And I've just painted it as if it's bending in the wind. And to add some sparkle to depict the shallow water where the waves have broken, I'm just dragging a rigger across the paper to pick up the texture with white gouache. Just adds a little bit of sparkle to the shallow water. For some final touches, I'm just adding a few seagulls and painting the fence wire, which I'd forgotten about, with neutral tint. And I think I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this useful. It's quite a good technique for painting grasses when you use a credit card to scrape out. As I said before, it needs to be wet if you want dark lines and just damp to get white lines. If you found this video useful, do give it a like. It really helps with YouTube. And do subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and hit the notification bell for future videos. And thanks again for watching.